On to Sri Lanka now, where massive protests continue to take place as the country witnesses its worst financial crisis since its independence. In the latest, the Sri Lankan police fired tear gas and water cannons on the student protesters in the capital, Colombo. Hundreds of students carrying black flags marched in the capital's Central Fort area. They chanted slogans against the government, demanding the removal and arrest of the president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa. This is when the police fired rounds of tear gas and water cannons to push back the students.
Sri Lankan government, they're killing the young people. This is right or wrong. They are terrorists. Gotabaya is terrorists. Rajapaksa is terrorists. We don't need like this leaders. We kill up. We don't give up these people. We want to be throw out this Rajapaksa family and the 225 leaders in Sri Lanka out of Sri Lanka. They are thieves. They are the terrorists in Sri Lanka.
The protests come as Sri Lanka defaulted on its sovereign debt for the first time in history. According to the country's central bank governor, the country is now in a pre-emptive default. A default is often dangerous for a country's reputation. It makes it difficult to borrow money that it needs from the markets. There will be no debt servicing until Sri Lanka is able to restructure its $51 billion external debt. The governor says Sri Lanka will take at least 6 more months to start repaying its debts. Bailout talks with the International Monetary Fund are currently underway, but a final agreement requires the approval of a finance minister, one that the island nation is yet to appoint. The IMF has termed Sri Lanka's debt situation as unsustainable. In addition, chronic foreign exchange shortage has led to rampant inflation. Prices are surging almost 30% across the country. Food prices have skyrocketed by 46.6%. The Sri Lankan rupee has plunged against the US dollar. $1 is currently equal to 360 Sri Lankan rupees. The Sri Lankan rupee is now one of the worst performing currencies in the world. Currently, the central bank has secured foreign exchange to pay for fuel. This could ease the crippling shortages in the country. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says supplies have been locked in for at least a month. The Prime Minister's new proposals to ease the crisis include selling the loss-making National Sri Lankan Airline, printing more money, and possibly raising taxes as well as energy utility prices. Expenses of the Prime Minister's office also have been slashed by 50%. Sri Lanka is currently grappling with its worst economic and political crisis in its history. The country has suffered months of blackouts and dire shortages of food and fuel, and this has triggered massive anti-government protests across the country. Our correspondent Dasani Athoda getting us this report from Colombo. Take a look.
While Sri Lanka's politicians managed to travel to Parliament, it is the average citizen of Sri Lanka that was left stranded and standing in line for hours in fuel queues as Sri Lanka's worsening fuel crisis has turned into a new law, with the Energy Minister confirming that petrol stocks will only be available for distribution from this weekend onwards. That's not all. Protests that were staged across the island demanding for fuel and gas at certain instances turned tense, with protesters blocking roads to show their frustration and anger. Sri Lanka's worsening political crisis is also a part of its worsening economic crisis, with neither of the two showing progress at this moment. Stay with WION World is One as we bring you the very latest from here in Sri Lanka. Reporting from Colombo, I'm Dasani Athoda.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.